Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. So here what we want to do is make a few buttons work. On the right click, I want the download button to work and the add to favorites work. Then we can move on to the share. So here, since whoever logs in right now is able to access this information, so they should be able to download that information as well. Now downloads, to download this information, we need to create an actual link that goes to the download file. Now we already know the file location, looking at the, let's see here. Looking at the information that is saved inside the rows that are returned. Now the problem with downloads is that we can't use an AJAX request because every result that comes from the AJAX request comes through the AJAX request. Instead, we want the browser itself to download. So this must be an actual link to the file. So what this means is that we're supposed to create an actual link. So here, it's easy to make the link so that once we click, we can download. But here, this will have to be updated depending on the row that we've selected, right? This one is permanent, this one isn't, it's dynamic. So in order to download, you have to navigate to an actual PHP file and then instead give it a header and tell it what to do instead of opening the link itself. So let's see how we can do that in action. Now we just need to create a download page. So the way we have api.php, let's right click and a new file, and let's save this one and say download.php. So in the download here, we just need to search for the ID of the item that we want to search for. Oh, that we want to download, sorry. So here, there's obviously an ID for each one of these. So let's try and make the code we need. First of all, let's put our PHP tags, of course. And here, in order to download, the function we need to use is just read file, like this. And then we read the file itself. Just like that. And then we exit here, or we die, or exit like that, doesn't matter. This is all we need to do. Now we need to create the file. Also, we need to tell it that this is a download. So we need to change our headers here to something that tells it this is a file attachment, and so don't just read the file as it is, download it. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what happens without the headers. So let's try and fix that. So first of all, we need to tell it what file name is. So file name could be a file that we get from the URL. Now the thing is, in the URL, I don't want us to put the file name of the file we want to download. I want us to put the file ID. And that's because, let's see here. Let's go to our PHP myadmin to look at the database. So we need a special key in there, whichever key we can use. It's okay to use the ID, but if you can avoid it, you can try to use something else. So let's go to my drive here. Now the reason why you may not want to use IDs is because IDs are easy to type. So if I right click on the download button here and then I hover on it, if there's a link here, it'll show me the link to the download file, right? And if there's just ID is equal to 2, it will logically follow that there's obviously a download with ID 5, ID 6, and so on. So somebody can easily write a script to go through all the downloads that are free and then just change a number. So this can be an automated process. They can just change a number and that'll be it. Then they can go through all the IDs to try and download things. So this is why you might want to avoid using IDs in this case. So a second thing we can do is, another thing is to have, let's see here, what do we got? To make things more difficult, you can put file type as part of the search, but there's a slash in there, so that's not ideal, because putting that in the URL would cause a bit of a problem. So what can we add to this? You can add maybe the date, because now if you add the ID, the user needs to also guess the date as well in order to be able to download that file. So that could slow things down as well, which is good. Another one could be, we can add what is known as a slug at the end here. Okay, so that's another possibility. We add slugs to these files. Now a slug is just the title name of the file, but that name is in URL friendly mode, because putting names like this where we have brackets and all that could be a bit difficult in the URL. So that is one thing to avoid. So what we're gonna do is, let's just add a slug. I think that will be much better for us. All right, but for now, let's just try and use the ID, then we can change it to a slug. Okay, so with this, we just need the ID here. So let me see where we have, let's go to the API.php. So here we require the session and function in this file as well. Okay. And what do we need? We need to know if the user is logged in. Okay. So I'm gonna select this, and if not logged in, wait. Info logged in comes from this function here. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that instead. So we're gonna put an if statement, and if not logged in, then let's just echo something and say, please log in to download files. Okay, just like that. And we need to exit the function here. I'm gonna put die instead. Okay, great. At least we know this is only gonna work if we are logged in. Okay, so once a person is logged in, this follows down here. So to this, the file name will be different, but for now, let's just get the ID. The ID should come from the get variable ID. That may not always exist, so let's put a null as a spare. Okay, so back to this. Let's see here. I'm looking for where we use our query. That way I can copy. So this is all we need to do, just create the query and run it. So right about here, I'm gonna do this, but I need to capture what's in the query. So that is the row of the file. And let's make our query here quickly. So query is equal to, I'm gonna say select all from my drive where user ID is equal to, now here is where we need the user to download only their file. So I think this is actually fine, whether or not we use the ID is okay. I think we can omit the slug here because there's an access issue here. So let me go back to the browse here and see. So the user ID must be correct and the ID of the file must be correct as well, to make sure that only the owner can do this download. So that saves us the trouble of somebody just going through the IDs and being able to download them. So we need to grab the user's ID. So there's a way here we grab the user's ID Where is this? Username. Just like we grabbed this one here. Let me go down to this. We need the user ID. And there it is. But instead of username, we put ID there, like so. Now you can tab these into like that to make them more appealing to look at. Let's go back to API here. I want to see how I'm using these queries. Let's see. Okay, so not using prepared statements, are we? Okay, so ID is equal to ID limit 1. So let me put the user ID in here, variable. Now these are supposed to be integers, right? So let's just make sure they are integers to avoid SQL injection. So let's put int there to cast them as integers. So whether they were sent as text, because somebody can easily put something in the URL that you don't like, so you just cast it as an integer. So where that and that are good, we will get a result. And then here I'm just going to say if row. So only if the row is correct or exists, otherwise we are going to echo something else as well. Sorry, that file was not found. Let's delete the rest of this. All right, great. Looking good. Now here we need the file name, which is the file path in essence. So if we look here, it's in file path. That's where it is of the row, and that shows us where the file actually is. So this one will be inside row file path. Now also remember that the result of this is a row of a row, an array of an array, sorry. So we grab the first item in the array, and there we go. So that's file path. All right, goody. Very good. Now here we need to change headers like I mentioned before, and this is the header that we need to add in order to create, to force a download. If we don't force a download, it actually just plays. So let's do that and see what happens. So I'm going to leave it as it is like this. This is good enough. But if I go now to my index.html, let me go down to add a link when we refresh the table. So the table refresh is over here. So on this one, we have this download cloud thingy, but it doesn't really have a link. So let's put a link there. href is equal to, and then we close that, come back to this and put the a tag. Let's go here. Okay, so over here, we just put the download.php file, put a question mark, ID is equal to, and then now we can put an ID for this, which is ID. So I'm going to just grab one of these, put it there, but instead of icon, we put ID like that. Simple and straightforward. So let's get back here and refresh our page. Now let me open a file that I know is readable and can actually play in the browser. So like this MP4 file, if I do click download, how big is this one? 314, 441, not so different. If I click here, it comes to this and it starts actually playing the file like this, right? So this is not what we are looking for, right? That's not what we want. So if it was an MP3 file, you would hear it playing there. So instead of this, we now need to change our headers. So let's do header, and inside the headers we'll put, let me put single quotes and paste. Oops, I have to copy from there and paste like so. Okay, so that changes the header. Now the file name is what will be the actual file name. So this one, though it says file name, that's file path, but it doesn't matter because finally there's a file name at the end of it. So we're just going to use base, I'll do this, to concatenate and put a single quote there and a single quote there. That way I can put some PHP variables here. I want to use the function base name that gets the base name of a file path, like so. So here I need to put just the file name itself without the folder path. That way, whatever name you put here, this is how you can rename the file during download. If you want the file to be different, you can put a different name here, but I want just the very file name to be there. All right, so let's refresh again. Now if I do click on this time, I get a download prompt like this, and the download process will begin. This doesn't look like it actually, oh yeah, it did download the whole thing. It really did. Okay, because it's on the same PC, so I guess that's why it was fast. Let me try one more time to download that. I'm just surprised on how quickly that went. Oh, it actually did download. Okay, great. That's how it works. So now we are able to download files. I can download this one as well with the same name, as you can see there. Oh, but the file name is different. So you see here, there's the file name itself, which is different to the display name. So what I'm going to do is look for where we keep the display name, and it's inside file name. So let me change how I am naming these guys. I'll change this file name to file path instead. So this one with a $sign, I'll do this and say file path like that. So it makes more sense. And then I'll duplicate this and do file name here. Like that, because there's file name in here, and that's the one I want as the actual final file name. So instead of using the base name here, I'm just going to remove that function and put file name over there, like so. That way it looks better. So let me try and re-download this guy. I'll click there, and it looks much cleaner now instead of with these random numbers that are added to the actual file on the drive. So whatever you see here on the name is what you get when you download. Alright, so that is all good, but what about when I right click? I want this download button to do exactly the same thing. So how do we get that to work? Because here it's easy. Each one has a separate link already, but this one here is the same button, so it needs to change depending on what I select. Also, I should ignore the download buttons on the folders. So let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to go back to the HTML. So here we do put something in here, but we should ask if the file type is equal to a specific value. Okay, so at this point, what I'll do is I want to concatenate to this. So I'll exit this part by putting the quote at the end like that, and then reigniting it here somewhere. But in the meantime, I'll put an if statement and say if file type is not equal to folder. So if it's not a folder, then we can show this. Now, instead of killing this here, what I can do is put this above this whole thing, right? but within the loop. So the loop is over there. Let me move this whole thing up like so. Okay, Shift Tab to move it a little bit backward. Not even some more like that. So you can comment these things to know what each part is doing. Then now I can remove this part here. Instead, I'll just put, I'll say download link underscore link. That's what I'll call it. Select it and put the $sign like so. Then I will make sure that download link is equal to something. So first of all, I'll say let download link be equal to an empty string like that. Okay, but then if it's not a folder, then we add download link to this. So now download link becomes equal to, let's put that quote and a closing one there, semicolon. What's happening here? Download link is equal to, okay, that's fine actually. Yep, actually that works. So let's see how that looks now. And as you can see, we don't have a download link anymore for the folders. That's much better, save us some trouble. And now when we right click, I want the download button to change as well. So with this, what we need to do is during the loading of this, we can alter the link to the download page here. So let's go ahead and look for, let's look for the thing that here is the download button. So there's a download button here and this here. So I want the whole div to be active, right? How can we do this? So one way to do this is, for example, to, let's just create a function. So I'm gonna do on click. When we click this, we just say table.download underscore file like that. Okay, we just close there. We don't need to supply anything because we already know what item is selected by looking at the table.select, the current select there. So we don't need to supply anything, right? So download is right there. So we just need to create this function, download file. Now all it's going to do is just move us to that link, that's all. Window.href and stuff. So let's go to the table object, which is this one. So the selected item is always in here, and we can grab the row from there, the contents of that selected row. So select is there, that's fine. Here I'm just going to put download file as a function like this. Don't forget the comma there. Great. So here we just need to navigate to a window. Window.location.href is equal to, so this is as simple as clicking a link. Kind of looks like that. It's the same as doing that. So download.php, then ID is equal to, the only thing we really need is the ID of the item that is being selected. So I'm going to do a plus like so. Now the selected is the selected item. Okay, so that's great. But how do we grab the ID? Let me see where I have used rows again. I keep forgetting how to do that. Where did I use row? So there it is. I just want to find this ID. How did I find this ID in here? Where is the ID? So ID is here. So table.selected.get attribute ID, and remove that, and then we can use it like this. Okay, so great. I'm just gonna copy that, and let's move around. It's in right here, and let's paste that. So the ID is equal to table.selected dot get attribute ID, and remove this text so the ID remains, and then we put it in here, and then we can obviously let ID be equal to that. Wait a second. Table.rows. So grab this actually and put it here. So it's going to be table rows ID. That's how we grab the ID. As simple as that. Okay, that should solve the problem. So let's try this out. So I want to download this again, or maybe this new text document. So I'm going to right click this time. Let me hover on it. We can't see the link, which is actually good, and I'm just gonna click on that, and as you can see, it's downloaded. Let's try something else. This one, download, and there it is. Simple and straightforward. Okay, very good. So our download works, and it downloads the correct file at the correct time. So in the next video, let's deal with the favorites here, and then we go to the share.